still, he was really lucky, common unlucky. He almost always come out the winner. He was always ready, just laying for a chance. There couldn't be no solitary thing mentioned, but that feller offered to bet on it and take sides any way you please. Telling you, if there was a horse race, you'd find him flushed. If you find him busted at the end of it. If there was a dog fight, he'd bet on it. If there was a cat fight, he'd bet on it. If there was a chicken fight, he'd bet on it. Why, if there was two birds sitting on a fence, he would bet you that which one would fly first. Or if there was a camp meeting, he would be there regular to bet on Parson Walker, which he judged to be the best extortioner hereabout. And so he was, too, and a good man. If he even saw a straddle bug start to go anywhere, you bet you he'd know how long it would take him to get wherever he was going to. And if you took him up, he would follow that straddle bug all the way to Mexico. But what he would find out there, where he was bound for, and how long he was on the road. Lots of the boys here have seen that Smiley, and they can tell you about him. Why, and there made no difference to him. He had bet on anything with the dangest feller. Parson Walker's wife laid very sick once for a good while. Seen it said, where's it going to save her? But one morning he came in, and Smiley asked how she was. He said she was considerable better. Thank the Lord for his infinite mercy in coming on that smart. With the blessing of Providence, she'd get well yet. And Smiley, before he thought, says, well, I'll risk 2.5 that she don't anyway. There here Smiley had a mare. The boys call her 15-minute nag. Now, that was only in fun, because, of course, she's faster than that. He used to win money on that horse. For all she was slow and always had the asthma or the distemper or the consumption or something like that, they used to give her 300-yard start and then pass under her way. But always at the fag end of the race, she'd get excited and desperate-like and come cavorting up, straddling up, scattering her legs around her limb, sometimes in the air, sometimes out to one side amongst the fences, and kicking up more dust and raising more ruckus. With her coughing and sneezing and blowing her nose, always fetch up at the stand and just about neck head, as you near could cipher it down. That Smiley feller, he also had a little small bull pup that to look at him, you didn't think he's worth cent, but sit around look ornery and lay for a chance to steal something. But as soon as money was up on him, he was a different dog. His under jaw began to stick out like the forecastle of a steamboat. His teeth would uncover and shine savage like furnace. And the dog might tackle him and bullyrag him and bite him and throw him over his shoulder 2 or 3 times. And Andrew Jackson, that was the name of the pup, Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson would never let on, but he was satisfied. Hadn't expected nothing else, and the bets being doubled and doubled on the other side all the time. Till the money was all up. Then all of a sudden, he'd grab that other dog just by the joint of his hind leg. Freeze on it, not chew on it, you understand, but only just grip and hang on till the throng up a sponge, if it was a year. Smiley always come out a winner on that pup till he harnessed a dog once, didn't have no hind legs, because it'd been sawed off by circular saw. And when the thing got along far enough, the money was all up, and he'd come to make a snatch for his pet bull. He saw in a minute how he imposed upon him and how the other dog had him in the door, so to speak, and he appeared surprised. And then he looked sort of discouraged like and didn't try to no more win the fight, so he got shucked out bad. He gave Smiley a look, and much as say his heart was broke, and it was all his fault for putting up a dog that ain't got no hind legs for him to pick a bolt, which was his main dependence in the fight. And then he limped off a piece. That was a good pup, was that Andrew Jackson. And he would make a name for himself if he'd lived, for the stuff was in him, and he had genius, I know it, because he hadn't had no opportunity to speak of. It don't stand a reason that a dog can make such a fight if he could understand them circumstances, if he had no talent. Always makes me feel sorry when I think of that last fight of him and the way it turned out. Well, this here Smiley had rat terriers, and chicken cocks and tomcats and all them kind of things. You just till you couldn't rest. You couldn't fetch nothing for him to bet on. He didn't match you. He catched a frog one day, took him home, said he calculated to educate him. And so he never done nothing for 3 months but stay in his backyard and learn that frog to jump. And you bet he did learn him too. He'd give him a little punch behind, and the next minute you'd see that frog whirling in the air like a donut, see him turn one somerset, or maybe a couple, if he got a good start, and come down flat-footed and all right like a cat. He got him up so no matter catching flies, and kept him in practice so constant that he'd nail a fly every time as far as he could see him. Smiley said all Frog wanted was education, and he could do most anything, and I believe him. Why, I've seen him set Daniel Webster down here on this floor, Daniel Webster was the name of the frog, and sing out, "Flies, Daniel, flies," and you could wink. He'd spring it straight up and sneak a fly off a counter there, drop down on the floor again as solid as a gob of mud, and fall to scratching his side of the head with a hind foot, as indifferent as he hadn't had no idea he'd been doing any more than a frog might do. You never seen a frog so modest and straightforward as was he, for he was all so gifted. And it came to fair and square jumping on a dead level. He could get more ground at one straddle of any animal of his breed if you ever see. Jumping on dead level was his strong suit, you understand. When it came to that, Smiley would ante up money on him as long as he had red. Smiley was monstrous proud of his frog. As well might he be, for fellers that had traveled and been everywhere all said he laid for any frog that was ever they saw. Smiley kept that little beast in a little lattice box, and he used to fetch him downtown sometimes and lay for a bet. One day a feller, stranger in the camp, he would come across him with his box and says, "What might be in that box you got in that box?" Smiley says, sort of indifferent like, "Might be a parrot. Might be a canary. Maybe. But it ain't. It's only a frog." And the feller took it and looked at it careful and turned it round this way and that and says, "So 'tis. Well, what's he good for?" "Well," Smiley says, easy and careless, "he good enough for one thing. I should judge he can out-jump any frog in Calaveras County." Well, the feller took the box, took a rather long look, particular look, and gave it back to Smiley and says, very deliberate, "Well, I don't see no pints of that frog that's any better than any other frog." "Well, maybe you don't," Smiley says. "Maybe you understand frogs. Maybe you don't understand them. Maybe you had experience, and maybe you ain't. Only amateur, as it were. Anyways, I got my opinion. I'll risk $40 to out-jump any frog in Calaveras County." Studied a minute and then says, kind of sad like, "Well, I'm only a stranger here. I ain't got no frog. But if I had a frog, I'd bet you." Then Smiley says, "Well, that's all right. That's all right. If you hold my box a minute, I'll go get you a frog." And so the feller took the box and put up his $40 along with Smiley's and sat down to wait. So he sat there a good while thinking to himself. Then he got the frog out, pried it in his mouth, and took a teaspoon and filled him a quail shot. Filled him pretty near up to his chin. Set him on the floor. Smiley, he went to the swamp, flopped around in the mud for a long time, till he finally catched the frog. He fetched it in and gave him to this feller and says, "Now, if you're ready, set him alongside Daniel, with his forepaws just even with Daniel, and I'll get to work." Then he says, "1, 2, 3, jump." And him and that feller took the frogs from behind, and the new frog hopped off. But Daniel gave a heave and hoisted up his shoulders like a Frenchman. But it wasn't no use. Couldn't budge. He's planted as solid as an anvil. He couldn't no more stir if he was anchored out. Smiley was a good deal surprised. He disgusted, too. He didn't have no idea what was the matter, of course. The feller took the money, started away. And when he was going out the door, he sort of jerked his thumb over his shoulder this way at Daniel and says again, very deliberate, I don't see no point about that frog. It's any better than any other frog. Stood scratching his head, looking down at Daniel all long time. And last he says, I do wonder nation that frog throwed off. I wonder if there ain't something matter with him. He appears to look mighty baggy somehow. And he catches Daniel at the nape of the neck and lifts him up and says, why, blame my cats. You don't weigh 5 pounds. He turned him upside down and he belched out a double handful shot. And then he see how it was. He was the maddest man. He set the frog down and took out after that fella. Never did catch him. Never did catch that fella. Now, at this point in the story, Simon Wheeler heard his name from the front yard and got up to see what was wanted. Turning to me, he moved away and he said, just where you are, stranger. Sit just where you are. Rest easy. I'm not going to be gone but a second. So by your leave, Mark Twain did not think that the continuation of the history of the enterprising vagabond Jim Smiley would likely to afford him any much information concerning the Reverend Smiley. So he started away. When he was leaving, Wheeler returned, and he buttonholed him and was trying to get him to listen to some more. Well, there his Smiley had a yeller, one-eyed cow that didn't have no tail, only just a short stump like a banana. And Mark Twain says, oh, hang Smiley and his afflicted cow. Good-naturedly, and bidding the old gentleman good day, Mark Twain departed. So that's the story of the celebrated jumping frog of Calaveras County. Very adventurous and very enterprising these gentlemen were. And most of the time, the gentlemen seemed to win. But didn't work out that way in the last, did it? That is our story for today. A few more announcements. Storytellers Campfire is accepting submissions for authors and musicians, journalists and writers and artists until August 30th. So if you would like to do that, visit us at storytellerscampfire.org. There are links also to that site to all of our archive shows. So you can listen to all our esteemed staff. There's Lady Selah, Isabella Hart, Rich Gelhausen, and myself. We want to thank all the staff at Storytellers Campfire and the hosts and the sponsors, because if not for them, this programming for this educational literacy programming could not be possible. So I hope you enjoyed our facts and about Mark Twain today and the story about the celebrated jumping frog of Calaveras County. We want to remind everyone to dance like no one's watching and sing like no one's listening. This is Charlie Checkers, your storyteller, and until next time, to our next story, you all have a great day. Goodbye.
What if you got rewarded for every good decision? What if your heart had a special way of letting you know it appreciates your healthy choices?
I've got to get my family to eat more vegetables.
Amazing!
And instead of cooking with butter tonight, I think I'll saute our veggies with heart-healthy oil.
You're a genius! So really, would your food choices pay off in heart health? Did you know that when you replace bad fats with healthier fats, like those in canola or other vegetable oils, it can lower bad cholesterol levels, and that's good for your heart. Here's a winning idea. Take up the challenge for good health, because the you of the future will say,
Fantastic!
Learn more at heart.org/facethefacts. Canola Info proudly supports.
Do you see that dog?